Well, it looks like we're on the air. Hey there, my name is Dee. How do I mute my ears? Hi, Stephen. I'm known around the web as the Web Princess. I've got me in my ears as well as I'm just trying to work out if I can make that not happen. We'll do this. Kind of love seeing all of my peeps from various places around the internet popping up in the chat. Anyway, my name is Dee. I'm a front ender by trade, I guess, and then what I've been doing in recent times is actually doing a bunch of stuff in enterprise with XWP, leading development teams, which has been an interesting challenge, certainly a massive development in the kind of stuff that I've been doing. So the other thing that I do outside of what I do for work is actually organise the WordPress Melbourne Meetup group alongside a team of amazing people, and have done a little bit of WordCamp organising and mentoring around the WordCamp space. So it was really great to be prefaced, I guess, by David's talking about a lot of things that are really dear to my heart. So I had the opportunity to do this presentation at WordCamp Europe. So I'm going to run through that. I've dropped a couple of questions down below, because what I'd like to see happen if I don't talk for too long is to actually have some discussion around this. And certainly there's a poll there, so if you could drop where you're at. I'm just curious to know what the audience has experience with in terms of meetups. That'd be really helpful. So if you're ready, Scott, let's switch over to the presentation. That'd be great. Maybe we should start. I'll start at the right page. Okay, so in terms of WordPress community or WordPress meetups, or in fact meetups in general, if what we're doing is setting up a meetup that we want to attract people to attend, there's a bunch of, or two specific questions that people will ask themselves when they're looking at your meetup page or when they're trying to find out information about what you're doing. And the first question is, are they like me? So if you're looking at a meetup page, you're examining the kind of people that are there, you're looking at the kind of content that you're going to see, and you will be asking yourself, regardless of whether you're aware of it or not, are these people like me? Do I see enough about me that I recognize myself? And do I think that this is, you know, an attractive proposition for me to actually attend this group? The second question that they ask themselves is, will they like me? And the answers to that, I guess, are informed when they come to your group, how they're integrated into the community, and these kinds of things will have a huge impact on whether they will continue to attend or whether they'll come back. So let's have a brief look at how we can better answer those questions as meetup organisers in order to attract and keep awesome meetup members. Okay, you'll see a lot of the photos that we're looking here on these slides are informed by meetups in Europe, which is, you know, indicative of where this was first presented. I haven't had it. Anyway, so I'm guessing that for the biggest majority of us, our meetups are organised through meetup.com. So the first opportunity that we have to make an impression starts with our meetup page. Of course, the same principles apply if you're organising your meetup through Facebook or your own website or some other platform. But generally, the first port of call for somebody new will be your About page. So in this page, you have the first opportunity to introduce your purpose or goal. This is where you put your mission statement and where you should be really clear about what you're about it may not be enough just to say we're a group about WordPress. There's not a great deal in that to sell it to someone. But if you say we're WordPress users who teach and learn from each other, who enjoy sharing this knowledge, who are passionate about encouraging others into WordPress and open source, we've basically introduced the mission to advance WordPress, but we're introducing the inclusive nature of the kinds of people who will be in that event. Oh, I made a mistake of switching windows. Okay. So this is the WordPress Melbourne's about page, or and it offers the broad strokes of the group, gives the people an opportunity to look in a bit more detail if they wish. But it gives them enough to know whether or not they want to make those first steps. You know, if they're a beginner, we've really clearly stated that there will be stuff here for them. If they're a developer, obviously also really stated that there's going to be stuff here from them as well. And it gives them that opportunity to go, hey, okay, so sounds like what we want. Let's find out more. And so we've got links to much more detailed information further in some of the custom pages within our Meetup page. Oh, sorry, I forgot to change the slide. There's the Meetup group. And of course, you can see any of this if you're a member of meetup.com and want to have a look at our Meetup page. And all of this information, you can see the kind of link down there is all available there. So this is the content of our additional pages. Now, for some people who look at this or a Meetup organizer and go, oh my God, that's too much information. But if we're thinking about our users or thinking about the people who may want to come along and may want to be involved, there's potentially not such a thing as too much information, because if they don't have enough information, they're not going to come. If we give them as much information as they need, we've got all of this opportunity for them to go looking. And you can see there, we've got 3 meetups that actually occur every month, and there are much more details about each of those meetups. We've got a code of conduct so that people know what's expected or know what to expect. And we also have a page where all of our previous presentations and information is available there. The second area that you have available to make great impressions on people and to help answer that question, are they like me? Your member profile pages. So on Meetup, you have an opportunity to ask people questions about themselves. And while we often use those questions as organizers to help inform us as to what people want from the group, they're also really valuable for people to get more information about the kind of members they'll meet when they come into your Meetup. So frame the questions, I guess, and that answers both of those needs. And don't make those questions a requirement to actually joining. I think we've got our questions here. What would you like to learn about WordPress? And how are you currently using WordPress? And that really helps inform what we do in terms of what we deliver. But it also gives these, other people looking to go, oh, I can see that Dee knows stuff about Genesis. I'm curious about Genesis. I'll come and ask her. The other thing that it was interesting actually when I was doing the research around this and finding photos, I guess, to inform some of the slides that I was putting is the kind of photos that we post at our Meetup. Most of them are kind of dodgy phone photos. And one of the things that will help people make a decision about coming along will be what your event looks like and the kind of people they see when they look. So I feel like one of the things that's quite important is having a good photo gallery. It really helps you showcase your event. And this is something that we need to work on as well. I'm quite keen to get one of our guys who takes more photos than me to come along and take some great pictures just to make it look really, really attractive for new members, I guess. Some nice promo shots. So if you can hear the animal in the background, there's a Burmese chasing around telling me that I should be doing other more important things like feeding her. Sorry about that. These are a couple of pictures, obviously. These are WordPress Melbourne. This is what our group looks like. So the next thing that I think gets overlooked a little, and it seems to me to be a pretty important thing, is the welcome email. Which is a really, really great way of introducing your group to new members when they've actually taken the plunge and joined, but they haven't yet attended an event. It's just a way to kind of make a nicer connection or introduce yourself a bit more personally to new members. We've got a great welcome email. One of our team members took a lot of her... Sorry, cat's trying to break into the cupboard. Amelia used some of her great content marketing knowledge to help write the content for our sign-up email, which gives really easy to read breakdown of what to expect, and invites people to ask questions or contribute. And you can see the link on that slide there. You can actually download a zip file of all of these kinds of files of content so that you can reuse them. So essentially, we've basically open sourced those so anyone else can use it. So once people have checked out your website or checked out your meetup page, they've taken the plunge, they've decided that they are going to find enough people at your meetup that they're going to like coming along and meeting you. The next question to answer is, will they like me? And this is Grant and Roby from WordPress Gold Coast. They will like you. And so they run a meetup up there. So when was the last time you went somewhere for the first time? Remember how it feels to walk awkwardly into a room where you don't know anyone? I believe that as organisers, we need to stay in touch with that feeling. It makes us much better at identifying newcomers, introducing ourselves to them, and introducing them to others and making them feel important and valued and welcome. I think that on the night of the event, we need at least one kind of social butterfly who meets and chats to people, who can spot a stranger from a distance and isn't afraid to introduce themselves. And I'm also fully aware in a community that's probably heavily dominated by introverts, this doesn't always come naturally. It may not be something that comes naturally to you as an organizer. So this is where having a team running a meetup comes into play. So having a team member of your organising team who's a real connector can be a great asset in helping be the glue that brings people on and helps them stay connected. So if it's not easy for you to be that person, identify someone in your group for whom that does come easy and encourage them into a role where they're kind of your meetup group's welcome wagon. One of the ways we have in our group to facilitate that welcome and bring people together is to provide food and drink for a social time before we get into the meetup program itself. At our two main meetups, we start the evening half an hour, kind of social catch up with pizza. That's a great opportunity for people to get to know each other, for us to kind of meet people who are new, and then we all go, well, a lot of us could drink at the pub afterwards. In fact, this social time, even more than the presentations, has proven to be really valuable for people to forge some great friendships and great collaboration opportunities. If we can create the environment as organisers that foster that feeling in our members, our meetups will be warm and welcoming, and they will grow. So if it's pizza and drinks or just coffee and cake, I think there's huge benefit in providing this kind of social lubrication. And how are we going to pay for it? Well, you can ask your members to make donations, or you can find a sponsor. And we'll talk about that a bit more shortly. So when you've been running a meetup for a while and have a group of people who make others welcome and encourage participation on all levels, and you're trying to keep the momentum going, what are some of the keys to making that happen? So here's some kind of practical advice to do that. First for me is have a great team. And this is a lovely opportunity for me to introduce you to the Melbourne organisers. Those of us wrapped in those blue circles are the team that pull together 3 meetups a month in Melbourne. The other thing that I kind of want to preface this is we're great mates. We do a lot of stuff together outside of WordPress as well. And it's really important if you find yourself in that situation with a great group that are really, really excited about hanging out with each other, is to also remember not to be exclusive, I guess. It would be really easier for us to just keep doing what we're doing without giving other people an opportunity to participate and get involved. And I think it's really, really important to kind of keep your eyes open for other people who may want to be a part of that or to participate. And so we've had a few meetings that we're just starting to bring on a couple of new organisers. But of course, one of the things with WordPress meetups is that we want them to be open and easy for anyone to participate and enjoy that, is to make sure that we are open to letting other people get involved. Which it's kind of exciting from my perspective, actually. So first off, let's think about how do we actually identify team players? If we're a new meetup and we're running this thing on our own and we're looking for other people to help participate and join us in organising, these are some of the things I think you need to look out for. I'm totally open for people offering other suggestions in this. But for me, team players are always around. They're present. They're there. They keep coming back. Second, they're helpful. They help without asking. They may be the first to arrive and the last to leave. In fact, they often are. And they participate. Often, you're running a meetup. You've got an opportunity for conversation to happen. Keep nurturing that and identify people when that's going on. Because they may be participating and really keen to actually keep participating further, and just maybe waiting for somebody to tap them on the shoulder and say, come along, let's play, let's make some more events, make some more WordPress. And they may be actively wanting to organize their own things in the context of your group, which is totally to be encouraged and celebrated, I think. In my experience, great team members may not always be the loudest, most obvious person there. It could be the quiet achievers who are loyal and regular, obviously getting a lot out of Meetup, and could be quietly encouraged to take more of an organising role. They may not put their hand up, but they may be really excited to be asked. So keep your eyes out on your group. Encourage people to be more involved. Okay. Here are some of the tools that we use for managing our meetup. WP Australia has a Slack instance, and Melbourne organisers have their own private room there. And then Australian organisers have a room as well, and people can keep up with what we're organising. We use Trello to manage all of our tasks. So we'll have the events mapped out for the year with a really loose plan around what we're going to talk about on a month-by-month basis. And Meetup for our marketing. And we have a WordPress website as well, where we kind of keep up to date with all the events that are coming through. We've got a feed of the events, and we've got all of our previous presentations and stuff there. I'm curious, actually, if we get into the opportunity to have a chat, as to hear what other people are doing around marketing, because certainly from my perspective, I'm not using Twitter as much as I used to, and I wonder what else people are doing to kind of promote their meetup. So if you've got any thoughts on that, please drop them in the topics and questions. And the other thing that we do that I haven't seen very much of, but I'd like to see more of, is virtual meetups on Hangouts. We have a once-a-month business meetup for half a dozen of the guys in our group, or guys and girls, who are running their own WordPress businesses. And it's really, really interesting to have accountability partners around what we're doing, to bounce ideas off each other. I'd love to see more of that happening. So from the earliest days of our meetup, our venues have been provided under sponsorship arrangements. Initially, these have been co-working spaces who provide their space free of charge in exchange for us talking about them and loving them on social media. As business for them has changed, we found ourselves paying more for venues and having to find sponsors who would cover those venue costs. And recently, after even that got too expensive, we've had to go looking for new venues and sponsorship arrangements. And again, this has all just changed again in recent weeks. So this seems to be a really moving platform, particularly in kind of co-working spaces around our area. I think there's massive competition. I'm feeling like the venues aren't seeing a huge amount of return for offering the space for free. And so, again, I'm really keen to have a conversation about what you guys are doing in terms of space and sponsorship and how you're making that happen, because it's proving a bit of a challenge for us, and we're in the process of having to find another venue again from October. So, yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of options. Obviously, we've talked through these as a group. We've looked at bars and pubs, but they've always got a minimum spend, and we kind of don't want to get in the kind of dicey area of, you know, providing alcohol or being, or, you know, kind of making that a challenge for some people. We've got an amazing local library, and if you live in the area, they offer reduced costs around the price of hiring that venue. And so we've had to work more on developing relationships on people who will provide cash for their sponsorship rather than in kind. And so that's kind of what we're looking at. So if you find yourself in that kind of situation, here are some of the things you can kind of do to approach sponsors if you find yourself needing to do that. Point one, it's often better to ask or approach them directly rather than just wait for them to come to you. If they do approach you, what my experience has been is it's really important to figure out what they're selling before you blindly take their money. You need sponsors who understand WordPress, not just who want a platform for peddling their goods and services. And we found that a lot of our cold calling sponsors targeting our meetup see our numbers and want in. They don't necessarily kind of get us. And so we've had to be a bit careful around that. Number two, approach sponsors with whom you have something in common, or with whom, or who would have a natural connection with your audience. WordPress businesses in your region, hosts, I think, or, you know, can be an interesting one to navigate that one. But the kind of people for whom your audience will actually have a natural fit, and who your audience will actually be interested in working with at some level, I think. Number three, have a strong professional sounding sponsorship email request or sales document outlining what your group is about and why you'd be a strong fit for developing a sponsorship relationship with them. If you look like you take it seriously, sponsors will take you seriously as well. And if a sponsor decides to come on board, respect their branding and your website and your communications about them. Often the sponsors that we've worked with will have given us a detailed outline of how they want us to talk about them, how to actually take care of their branding, and it's really, really important for the maintenance of that ongoing positive relationship is respecting that. And keep in touch with your sponsors. So kind of number five, communicate with them. Send them pictures of your meetup. Keep them up to date with how they're helping you. Don't just see them as a cash dispenser. Build a relationship with them. And as that relationship develops and continues, the mutual benefit to each other grows with your group. And if you're interested in a template for that kind of email, you can see that on that link as well. I'm going to offer 2 words of caution, I guess, about sponsorship. The first is, don't let sponsorship change the nature of your group. And if the things a sponsor wants from you starts to look like they'll make your meetup feel less like an open source and WordPress Meetups, think very carefully about continuing. You've got a culture to preserve. Don't let money in the get away of that. And word of caution number 2, sponsorship is not about making a profit for your group. It's not about storing up resources. It's not about providing high-end fancy spaces or food. It's simply about having your needs met. So try and keep your needs modest so that your sponsorship needs aren't exorbitant. So as with any regularly occurring event, it's really easy to find what works and stick with it, to get into such a groove that your meetup becomes predictable. So I think it's important for everyone, both organisers and attendees, keep your meetups a bit fresh. And there's a couple of ways to do that. If your meetup thrives with presentational format and you don't want to move too much away from regular presentations, mix up the kind of people that are speaking. Target speakers that you want to hear from, even if they're outside of WordPress. Our latest meetup, we had 2 speakers come in, one from the CSS meetup group and one from someone we met at the WooCommerce meetup, who's obviously connected fairly closely to WordPress, but is not someone that we knew. And it was really, really cool to see numbers kind of really bounce because there was this new and exciting, interesting pair of speakers who we didn't know before. So that's a really good way to keep things fresh. Set specific topic-related events and specifically ask people to speak to those topics. This gives speakers an opportunity to kind of broaden what they're looking at and what they're digging into. And it means that you get a group of people that come along with a specific topic of interest as well. And that can make for some really good after-event conversation. Have a lightning talk event to allow for shorter formats, to give people an opportunity to talk for the first time. I'm kind of in 2 minds about this one, largely because I think sometimes it's harder to present for 5 minutes than it is for 20. Certainly hard to keep lightning talk speakers down to 5 minutes, if my experience in organising any of those is the case. But it's certainly keen to see other people get an opportunity, and oftentimes, a 15-minute talk can be overwhelming for someone, and so having lightning talks, it gives more of a people an opportunity, I think. So it's worth exploring. Number 4, if people aren't confident to speak, run workshops on creating presentations and presenting successfully to give these people a chance to kind of improve their confidence in a safe place. And encourage diversity in the speakers that you have. Honestly, in a lot of cases, minority representatives may not actively volunteer, but may respond really well if you ask them directly. So give them opportunities. Don't feel bad if they say no, but at least make more people feel like that you believe they have something that you want to hear from them. I know certainly in my early days, it wasn't always a case of... In fact, the first time I ever spoke at a WordCamp was because somebody sent out a tweet, hey, we would love to hear more women speak at this event. And I thought, well, I could speak at that. And so I sent an application on a topic I knew nothing about at the time and ended up speaking at my first WordCamp about 6 months later. Have a clinic. This is one of the things that we're actually going to do in September. We've got a core contributor day coming up. And one of the things that we're going to do, because a lot of our users don't feel, comfortable contributing, we'll actually have an open clinic so people can bring their sites or bring their laptops and pick the brains of some of the people that have got more experience there. it's a great opportunity to meet people in a much more casual environment as well, which is kind of cool. Run workshops, which differ from clinics in the sense that they offer sort of teaching or speaking on a specific subject. Particularly great for groups where there are lots of new users who want to get to grips with WordPress, and there's some great information available over on make.wordpress.org in the way of curriculum for WordPress training if you want to kind of mix up your meetup by doing something like this. We've also run workshops in the past for users wanting to get set up to contribute to core. So it isn't just for users. Ask yourself what your group needs and see if a workshop will help that. WordPress meetups don't have to happen in co-working spaces or offices. Some of the most entertaining and fun events happen casually without a presentation, but over a good meal and a glass of wine. Some of the best ones I've been to like this, actually. Probably says more about me than the meetup. But. This is one that we've experimented a bit with in Melbourne. One of the jokes, obviously, around WordSesh has been around wearing pants. There's a radio show in Australia that had an event every Friday, was Pants Off Friday. So Pants Off Friday, the presenters and any of the guests would come and do the show sans pants. And one of our things that we've been doing in Melbourne is Pants On Friday, because obviously we all work without pants. So Friday we put our pants on and all go in and work together, which has been great fun and great way of collaborating with other people, meeting other people, and actually kind of getting outside of our comfort zone. The Gold Coast crew do much of a similar thing, rotating around from one home to home and hanging out and doing WordPress together. Contributor days don't just have to be at WordCamps. They often get tacked on to the end of a WordCamp, which is fantastic. As soon as everybody's there. I guess we're in a fortunate position, and we've got a number of kind of core team that are in our region who will come along and help. But also a great opportunity to get new committers on board. And you can see that table in the back of that picture is me and Raylene, who are actually doing docs that day. So we weren't touching any of the code because that would be dangerous. If they've got special interest groups within your group, there's just about as many different kinds of meetups you can run as there are people. This is Women of WordPress in Orange County, pretty much my new favourite meetup that I've never been to. I ran a meetup called WordSesh for a while when we'd had Women of WordPress in Australia, basically, or Melbourne. Kind of let that slide a little bit. I probably need to kind of get that going. But, there are other groups, WooCommerce meetups, polyglots groups, people who are interested in meeting around other areas of interest and diversity within the WordPress ecosystem. The only limit really is the need to keep the culture of meetups in the WordPress space aligned with the 5-fold guidelines for meetups that are over on the Make site. And finally, this one's actually one of my favourite. I realise we're a bit lucky, but we've run Beach Press before where we had 10 or 12 people at the beach. Historically, we've done these in the winter, which means that you can go to the beach and not have to go outside, which pretty much suits a bunch of nerds who want to sit there with their laptops and write code. You can tell it was pretty cold where we were too there. I can see puffer jackets and hoodies, and we're all sitting in front of the fire, actually. But realistically, at the end of the day, I think there's really only the sky being the limit of what we could do in terms of meetups and events. And I saw somebody mention earlier in the chat that it'd be great to see diversity around WordCamps. I think there's also huge scope for diversity around meetups as well. A while back, we ran an event called Press Jam, where we had 4 teams kind of competitively building websites for not-for-profit groups, which was a fantastic way to, build team relationships for people to see what it likes in the context of kind of a team where you've got content people and designers and developers all working together to kind of provide a solution for someone. And I think there's huge opportunity for more of that kind of thing to happen as well. So that's kind of it. Introduce people to your meetup, give them as much information as they can so they decide whether or not you guys look like they will like you. Make them feel welcome so that it's obvious to them that you will like them. And then keep things interesting to keep people coming along. Keep communicating about what you're doing and gather great teams around what you're doing as well. So I think you should probably be able to see me now, right? And which leaves things open to questions, I guess. Anybody got anything? Let me just read up a little. So I asked that question, are you a meetup organizer? And what's the hardest part about that for you? Mark says, finding local speakers, working on the meetup site, breaking out of the standard topics while still helping newcomers. Yeah, that's a biggie. I think everybody who runs a meetup comes up against that. We've actually gone looking outside of our group for our speakers. Like I mentioned, the developer group that recently had somebody from the CS meetup come along. It's pretty much our challenge as well. I think the idea of planning a meetup more in advance and targeting speakers around a particular topic can help with that too. Andrew Wood says, hardest part is finding a good venue. Yep, preaching to the choir there. Ricky, finding speakers and keeping people at all levels engaged. Yep. One of the things that we've done, and I know that it's a luxury that not everybody have, is that we actually have 2 meetups, one for the user group and one for the developers. We're lucky because we've got enough organisers that are prepared to do that. It can be a challenge doing a user meetup, to be honest, because you tend to find yourself with users coming along with the same questions, you know, week after week or month after month. One year we did basically a 1-year course. So the monthly user meetup, start at the beginning. Here's hosting. This is what your file structure looks like. This is what you do when you're setting up WordPress. And then going through the process. We were recording all those events so people could come back later on and catch up. But that was really helpful. But you don't want to do that every year. So if anyone's got any ideas how to help users like that, that would be really great. But the things that they tend to want to ask are, you know, kind of simple changes, SEO, and how to use WordPress. And, you know, if you're a developer organizing a user meetup, some of that can get a bit tiring. Daniel says, challenging, stifling my introvertedness and finding local space. Yep, totally understand that. And that's just a case of just having to do it. I often find emailing someone is easier than calling them. You get a chance to kind of prepare what you want to ask them. It's that issue of the rejection factor, isn't it? You kind of go, oh, I really, really, you know, want to ask, you know, Jordan to come and speak at our meetup. But what if he says no? Oh my God, I'm going to be a total reject. And you just have to get over yourself in those cases and send the email. And if they say yes, it's not about you. Or no, if they say no, it's not about you. If they say yes, it's absolutely about you because you're fantastic. James, trying to find reliable audio, video services and gear. Yeah, we actually own a video camera. Aaron, where's that video camera? We haven't used it for a while, actually. We've been doing, if we're recording presentations, we're just recording the screen. We're not worrying about video of the presenter itself. So, question 2. If you're a meetup organizer, what's the best piece of advice you got about organizing that you'd like to share? Roby, talk to your new people. Make sure no one comes and goes without ever talking to anyone. It's a hard one, eh? It's the introvert factor. I went to WordCamp Europe, and the thing that I'm most annoyed about the whole event was absolutely nothing to do with the event, which was incredible. It was everything about me and the fact that there were people that I didn't talk to that I really wish I had. I tended to spend a lot of time talking to people that I already knew, and I can do that at WordCamp Sydney or anywhere else. So again, for us introverts, it's a case of getting over yourself and just getting on with it. Because actually, most of us are pretty excited when somebody goes, hey, I heard you do a thing, or I saw your meetup, or I love your blog, and I'd really like to talk to you about it. That gives everybody a bit of a buzz. So AJ's best piece of advice: invite members to speak and contribute through different kinds of events. Everyone knows a topic to do enough about a 5-minute lightning talk. Everybody's got a project that they've done that they'd like to show off. So 5-minute case studies is always really interesting that people, we just listened to Aaron, tell us a story about a project launch. Anyone could come along and do a talk about something that they learned from a particular project that they did. So Petra asked me, what are my thoughts on invited speakers from outside your local community? I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea to invite people from outside of WordPress. We've had speakers and events where we've had people from the local Joomla and Drupal community. And I think all of us came away from that going, our similarities are way bigger than our differences. We're all in open source. We all actually quite like each other. And we'd like to do more of this. We haven't, but we definitely should. So I think it's a great idea. I think we've got a lot to learn from other people. I think there's a lot of WordPress that we can teach other people, but I think it's really, really important to actually have our vision outside of this kind of insular community. So if you're a meetup attendee, what do you get out of your meetup? Awesome community, friends, and a deeper understanding of web tech. Lauren gets to ask questions to people who have more experience than her, and it's mostly social for her. And so that's really valuable. Completely agree. Do you know, I don't remember half of the meetup talks I've ever heard. But I remember meeting people. I remember my first meetup talk was actually down here in Melbourne before I even lived here. And some of the people that I met are kind of my best friends now, which is amazing. Mark gets friendship, colleagues, and a chance to teach how to press words. I love that. Meeting new people. It's all about the meeting people, eh? I think that's what Meetup's all about in general. What would you like to see happen to improve your Meetup experience? Resources to stream and interact with a greater audience. Roy needs more attendees. kind of curious actually to chat to Scott at some point about how the technology works and how Crowdcast works in terms of, you know, creating this kind of meetup space. I think particularly for groups that don't have huge numbers, and I'm thinking about New Zealand here actually, and there's quite a lot of people that are kind of separate from the main urban areas, that something like this or Hangouts or whatever can actually provide the kind of meetup space around that. In fact, one of the things that our team are working on is we've got a hugely distributed team. How can we actually spend more time together, even though we're all around the world, and kind of this kind of virtual meetup is a format that I think we're going to experiment as well. There's a good question. Do you find that video recording meetups decreases attendance? I haven't run any numbers around that. I don't think so. Depends on the quality of the recording, I guess. We don't necessarily broadcast beforehand that this will be recorded so that it gives people the option. We've had a few catastrophic recording failures, which means that sometimes where we might have wanted to provide a recording, we're not able to. Roby asks, has anyone set up a secret Facebook group for Meetup members to share tips and topic requests, and does it work well? And Will replies, he just sends everyone to WP Australia on Slack, which is a good idea. Roby, I think that would work for dev meetups, but not for users. I'm part of a couple of groups on Facebook, I guess. One of which kind of started off as a kind of secret place to vent when things aren't going well, but to share useful things. But that's fairly dev heavy, or designer and dev heavy. I'm curious to know if anybody else has answers around that. I don't know if I have an answer for that. If you're not a meetup attendee, why? Because there's no nearby meetups. Pretty much what I expected. Okay, how are we going for time? Minta asks one more question. Okay, so I'll ask that last question. Do you think it's a bad idea to have tracks during meetups? A developer talk and a non-developer talk? We've done it. It worked for us for a while. And we got to the point where we ended up going month about, actually. So we would do developer 1 month and then user the other month, which then moved quite naturally into 2 separate groups within the wider user group. I don't know if it's a right way or a wrong way, but it certainly was the way that it happened organically for us. So I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's actually fairly natural, and if you want to kind of build the group and get people interested, it's a really good way to start. Gives opportunity for the users to find developers to collaborate with and to get help from. So it's just a question of how you foster that within the context of the group. So that about wraps it up, I think. Thank you. Great participation there. Obviously something that I'm pretty passionate about. More than happy to have more conversations on Twitter for those that are interested, and you can find me anywhere as the Web Princess. Thanks very much.